Hey dads, can you imagine, just for a moment, that you are a child and you're out and about with your dad, riding in the back seat of the car or something, and in a moment of connection between the two of you, you venture to share some deep, dark secret in your heart, something that to you would mean the end of the world if it ever got out. Oh, Dad, I've got a crush on this girl in my class named Susie. Something like that to you is everything. But to Dad, and now Dad Squad, you can swap positions, put your hat back on, become Dad. You hear something like that, and it's normal, it's routine. You hear that sort of thing all the time. Maybe it gives you a little giggle. Well, imagine if you were to share that little tidbit about Susie with somebody else, how devastating it would feel for your son. Welcome, Dad Squad. You're watching the Run with My Son show. I'm Gideon Dave Newell. It's good to see you again. And our topic today is keeping confidentiality with your kids, keeping privacy. It's a great topic that we're going to bounce around a little bit here. And I'm also going to take a moment to tell you a little bit about my offer, my promise of confidentiality to you, the audience. So I'm looking forward to talking about that here in a minute, too. But before we get started, I want to invite you to put a few words in the comments here if that scenario that we just described ever happened to you in your childhood. Did you ever have a moment that you thought was being kept confidential, where you opened up your heart and shared that deep, dark thing, whatever it was, with a parent or any trusted adult, really, with the understanding that it was going to stay, secret between the two of you, but in fact found its way into some other conversation with another person down the road, with mom or somebody else. So it's probably happened to you. It's happened to me. And if it has, go ahead and you can put a single word in there, yup, or nope. If you're fortunate enough that the answer is nope, then by all means write that too. I'd love to hear it. But if that's ever happened to you, give me a yes, give me a no. Or you can even dive into the story itself if you want to type that in there. As we allow for those to come in, I would just open up with our topic again for those who might be joining a little bit late. A crucial practice in building connection between you and your son is to respect confidentiality, privacy, between anything that's said during your Runversations. And here at the Run with My Son show, that's what we're about. We're dads, and we're committed to a lifelong relationship with our sons, deepening that connection through something we call Runversations. Physical time spent together out and about, working the motor neuron connections of our brains and engaging all five senses while we have conversations to make those conversations stick. It's a magical combination, and that's what we practice here. And during those Runversations, if you're not working under some assumption, some clearly defined set of ground rules, then doubt can creep in, and connection it doesn't have solid ground to build on. So we're going to talk about how you can achieve this, how you can get clear expectations for everybody, and how you can know when it's appropriate to make exceptions to your own rules. And even the exceptions will be clearly understood up front, with luck by the time you're done. All right, well, I talked to a number of parents this week, and one thing that was, I guess there are people on equal ratios side of this argument, people who say, look, anything that is in my ear is going to go straight to mom's ear. I'm going to tell her we have a 100%, no boundaries kind of a relationship. And that's awesome. And other people, fully had the opposite. Like, hey, every conversation I have, no matter who it's with, it's a one-on-one, and it stays a one-on-one unless explicitly, given permission to be shared elsewhere. And I understand both of those perspectives, and there's, probably a mixture of those in all of our lives, But I talked to some of these parents, and one idea that came up was a great hybrid of the two. And it was shared with me that this person has an understanding that all things that are shared between you and the child will then later get shared with mom or dad, as it was in this case. This was a mom who gave me this thought. with just a few exceptions. And one of those is when the child has great news that she wants to personally deliver. So milestones, achievements. When our little ones, get top honor society or are awarded something, it's just a courtesy to let him tell mom when she comes home from work, when he comes off the bus, instead of blurting the good news yourself, which might feel good, might be a temporary pat on our own back, but you know what? Let him have those victories to share. Even if it's your news that you've happened to tell your child first, go ahead and give him that joy to go share it with mom, dad, whoever. You know, what's it costing you? All right, so that's a reasonable thought that and practice. Now, of course, there are exceptions, and I think we're going to talk about those in a second, but let me give another perspective that was shared from the movie The Godfather. You might remember the line. I don't actually remember the exact quote, but it was, what happens in the family stays in the family. That's my Marlon Brando for you. All right, so that's a perspective that I think comes pretty naturally to some of us. Things that are intimate or, a little bit close to the heart. We keep them here in the four walls of our house. And that's metaphorical for our family. There's no need to be telling the neighbors, the friends, the other parents on the soccer teams. And I think that comes naturally to mind. But, and depending on the age of the child, some kids can really be sensitive, can be mortified if those thoughts even are shared within the family. Oh my gosh, if my brother ever found out that I thought this or that I did that, it can damage those relationships. So that even that rule is only applicable to a degree. It's a rule of thumb, a starting point for a lot of families. But you got to also be aware of those sensitivities, things that we might be blind to. Like, I'm sorry, I just thought that you guys are all part of the same family, that it wouldn't matter if he knew that you did that. We can't always make those assumptions. So I'm going to take a moment and get a little vulnerable and share with you a mistake that I made this week. And that is with your confidentiality, Dad Squad. So I've been making a practice here in videos to attribute those great nuggets of advice that you've shared with me by name. And I don't know why I was blind or not really thinking along these lines, but a lot of folks, would share stuff willingly and openly with me, but not realizing that then I would be naming them in the videos when I went and shared it with others. And so I don't know why that escaped me, but it makes perfectly clear sense to me now. And so you'll notice today I'm not dropping any names, and it's going to be my practice not to do so in the future, though I definitely appreciate and will thank people for their thoughts that they're shared. It's just not going to be practice to name folks anymore. And that's true on our page and on our group, too. So here, I'm going to drop a video on you now. Maybe you didn't know this, dads, but we have a free online community for Dad Squad support. That's right, it's a Facebook group page. It's called Dads Who Run, and I will grab it for you right here. Go to facebook.com/dadswhorun, and you'll see this. We use it as a place to share victories with one another, struggles or questions. You can put your runs there and your experiences, and it's great to have other dads, peers from all abilities, ages, stages, et cetera, there in the journey with you. People who have faced that same battle, have gone through some of the same challenges you have, and to be able to openly discuss stuff and to get great advice. And it's right there for you. Facebook.com/groups/dadswhorun. And you can join up. It's free. It's an instant squad at your back of fellow peer dads, the Dad Squad. And we're here to cover your back, to give you that encouragement, even sometimes an ear to hear. Maybe we don't have advice for that particular thought or whatever, but even being able to articulate it, write it out, share it, get vulnerable yourself will help you. So I want to invite you to check out our Facebook group. It's where all the action these days is happening, as you know, online. Conversations are happening on Facebook groups, and so we want to invite you to jump into ours. Back to our topic, though, of our confidentiality with our kids. Now that you know how I'm keeping the confidentiality between you and myself, we've got a responsibility to our kids, and that is to make clear expectations up front. If there's any doubt, if there's any, blank, unresolved idea, like if I say something to Dad, where is it going to wind up? If there's any question in the matter, then he's not going to share. He's going to, claim, or if there's, God forbid, previous history of you sharing one of his secrets, he's also not going to share. So you got to make clear as soon as possible, today, dads, or whenever the next Runversation you have with your son, you got to let him know that, look, I know that we don't always talk about this, but I just want to make certain that you feel okay if you share something with me. I want you to know that I'm not going to go around and tell somebody else. Now, maybe you, Junior, maybe it doesn't bother you, whatever, but just so that you are confident in telling me whatever is on your heart, I just want you to know that I'm not going to tell anybody else unless you, explicitly allow me to and tell me that I can. And I hope it would be the same way with you. If I share something with you, I would hope that you don't go tell your friends at school, etc., etc. In that same conversation, dads, though, you need to let them know what the exceptions would be. And I think an obvious exception are things that involve danger. Whenever there's going to be something shared about, maybe Junior tells you about his friend at school who's thinking about hurting somebody else. He's really angry at Peter, and so tomorrow he's got this prank set up. He and some of his buddies are going to wreck Peter's bicycle when he's not at school. They're going to, paint it. They're going to pop his tires when he's not looking. That sort of thing, danger to life, limb, or property, we got to head that off. I mean, that's just being righteous, and I think that should be clear in most minds and hearts. But let your son know in that Runversation that, look, I'm going to keep your words private and confidential between us, but if I hear something that sounds like a dangerous scenario, if I hear about someone who's exploring, who's interested, who's thinking about substance abuse, smoking or drinking, these underage things that just are not good for you, I'm responsible. I'm an adult and a parent, and I do have to tell that other parent or tell that teacher, that coach. So that is an exception. But you know what? If I hear that you're feeling very uncomfortable about the way an adult's touched you or something they said to you, then that's something that I might need to talk to some other adults with, just to make certain that we get to the bottom of this situation. But in all other scenarios, your feelings for Susie or whatever, might be applicable. That sort of thing we can keep between us, you and I, son. So make that clear up front. Build some confidence. That'll be such a relief to him to know that he's got someone he can speak with who's grown up. He's his dad. He's got his back, and he's been through this before. He had kids make fun of him when he was little, so I can tell Dad about the kids who are making fun of me. Dad's not going to join in with the bullies and laugh at the same issue. He's going to support me. So you can't really begin to build that connection. You don't have a platform, a foundation to even begin if you haven't got that understanding between you and your son of confidentiality. And let me also restate here, I know I've said it a couple of times already here, but I want you, dads, parents, to know that I've got your back. I'm not going to be sharing the things that you say otherwise with others by throwing names out there. How embarrassing that is if you share, some deeply held personal connection with your son that's special to the two of you, and then I use it, in conversation with somebody else, and it gets back to your son. I mean, that'd be devastating. So I understand that now, and I want to make certain that you know that that's not going to happen. Let me also invite you here, if you don't already realize, that you can catch us on Fridays, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard. We do our video, and you can always catch all the back episodes. We have a YouTube channel also. But dads, let me encourage you to go take your father-son team to victory this week. Now that you are arm in arm with an understanding of the bond between you and the confidentiality that will be kept between you, you'll be even more unified, even more prepared to go out there and take on life's challenges together. All right, dads, have a great one. Looking forward to speaking next week.